So there I was, just minding my own business, trying to sip my lukewarm coffee at 9 a.m. when Karen bursts into the room like a tornado in heels, eyes wild, voice booming. "Why isn't this fixed yet?" This is a disaster. We're on the brink of a full-on client meltdown. And I'm sitting there utterly baffled, like, what disaster, what meltdown? Because honestly, for the life of me, I had no idea what she was talking about. Apparently, I was the person now officially responsible for fixing the crisis. But here's the kicker. I didn't even know a crisis existed. No one had told me. Not Dave, not Lisa, not even Karen before her panic-fueled entrance. I was just that guy in the corner cubicle, the one who files reports and refills the printer paper without making waves. How did I go from office nobody to accidental hero overnight? I mean, 1 minute, I'm a faceless background guy with a mouse and keyboard as my closest friends, and the next, Karen's practically yelling my name like I'm the Batman of corporate emergencies. If this sounds like the setup for a terrible joke, trust me, it felt exactly like that. And don't get me wrong, Karen yelling is nothing new. She's got this non-stop stress cloud hanging over her head, and it makes her prone to these wild, almost operatic freakouts. But this was next level. She had me scrambling to find a fix for a crisis invisible to the entire office except her. "Dave?" Yeah, he looked at me like I was about to set the place on fire or something. "You? Fix this?" "Good luck, man," he said with one eyebrow raised, arms crossed like he was watching a disaster movie in slow motion. Meanwhile, Lisa, ever the mix of sarcasm and support, just smirked as if she knew something I didn't, probably because she did. So there I was, stuck between a boss who thought I had superpowers, a skeptic ready for me to fail, and a friend who was equally amused and mildly interested in how this was going to play out. Ugh, the stakes? If I didn't solve this crisis soon, well, according to Karen's very dramatic forecast, the whole team might end up in serious trouble. And honestly, I had no idea what kind of trouble. But from that moment, I knew one thing. I was about to find out just how deep this mess ran and whether this accidental hero gig was going to be a one-time thing or something that would stick. So, let me paint you a picture of this place because it's a classic mid-sized corporate office, right? You've got the usual suspects, rows of cubicles, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the faint scent of printer toner mixed with leftover lunch lingering in the air. Me? I'm way back in the corner, just quietly living my best life at desk 47B. No grand windows, no corner office vibes, just me, my computer, and an endless sea of spreadsheets. Now Karen. Oh, Karen, she's like the walking personification of stress. You know that friend who snaps at you for breathing too loud? Yeah, that's her, but times 10. She's the kind of boss who probably drinks her coffee black with a side of anxiety. Always rushing, always frazzled, and when she yells, you know it's serious. Or so I thought. The catch is, Karen's definition of serious changes by the minute. 1 second it's, we might lose the client. Next it's, the printer is a threat to national security. But this whole crisis thing, well, it was on a whole different level. You'd think the office was on fire with how she reacted, but everyone else was calm, sipping their coffees, clicking away like it was just another Tuesday. Dave's the skeptic in this story. He's the kind of guy who's been here long enough to build a thick layer of cynicism. The kind of guy who's seen office melodramas play out like reruns and isn't buying any new episodes. So when Karen dropped the crisis bomb on me, Dave just leaned back, gave me that raised eyebrow look that screams, "You're doomed," and muttered something about me probably breaking the internet or whatever. Meanwhile, my friend Lisa, she's the wildcard part cheerleader, part stand-up comic. She's the person everyone secretly wishes they had on their team because her sarcasm is on point, but underneath it all, she's genuinely helpful. When I told her I was suddenly the crisis fixer-upper, she smirked and said, "Well, this should be entertaining," which, given my complete confusion, was both comforting and horrifying. So here I was, stuck right in the eye of the storm, with Karen breathing down my neck, Dave treating me like a walking disaster, and Lisa making cryptic comments that made it seem like I was missing some crucial insider joke. And the stakes? Karen kept saying things about the whole team suffering if this didn't get fixed pronto, but she never actually explained what it was. I mean, how do you solve a crisis you don't understand? At this point, I was just hoping I didn't accidentally make things worse. Because honestly, I was still trying to figure out if the crisis was a literal meltdown, a software glitch, or maybe even the office dog getting loose. Hey, Karen loved to exaggerate. But even with all this confusion, I felt this weird adrenaline kicking in. It was like being thrown into the deep end without a life jacket, but also realizing maybe you can swim after all. Or at least doggy paddle your way through enough code and emails until something clicks. So I started poking around the usual places, checking emails, scanning through the project management tool, trying to figure out what on earth had changed overnight. And that's when I got my first hint. A mention of some software update that went through last week. something no one was really talking about, but apparently, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. The plot thickens, right? Except for me, it was more like a foggy morning where you think the sun is coming out, but it's still just mist and confusion. I realized this wasn't some minor hiccup. Whatever was happening was buried deep in the technical weeds and definitely not in my usual job description. But hey, I had Lisa with her ever-ready sarcasm and occasional pearls of wisdom, and a boss who wouldn't stop calling, and Dave who was all too ready to remind me how doomed I was. It was shaping up to be a long week. And honestly, I still had no idea how I was going to pull this off. Alright, so there I was, staring at the screen like it was some kind of ancient scroll written in code I didn't speak. This bug, or whatever mysterious beast it was hiding in the software update that happened last week, but no one bothered to bring it up until Karen went full alarm mode. It was like someone handed me the keys to a spaceship and just expected me to know how to fly it, despite my obvious lack of astronaut training. I remembered my first real attempt to fix things. Sitting at my desk, I opened the project management tool and dove into endless lines of reports and error messages. Each one looked more intimidating than the last, like they were written by a sadistic tech guru who enjoyed watching people suffer. I tried Googling solutions, clicking every link that promised a quick fix. Spoiler alert, no quick fix came. After an hour or two, my brain felt like it had been scrambled in some cosmic egg machine. I could practically hear Dave's voice in my head, the way he had looked at me earlier, that mix of skepticism and amusement. You? Fix this? Yeah, right. Honestly, I wanted to throw in the towel. But then Lisa popped up at my cubicle, arms crossed, one eyebrow raised, smirking like this was the best reality show she'd seen all week. Hey, you're not dead yet, she quipped, leaning in. That means you're doing something right, or the bug hasn't killed you off entirely. She pulled up a chair with the dramatic flair of someone about to reveal a secret treasure map. Here's a tip. Don't just look at the symptoms. Trace back to what triggered it. Software updates don't mess up on their own. They're called bugs for a reason. I nodded, though honestly, her sarcasm was competing with my rising panic. Still, it was the first piece of helpful advice I'd gotten, so I went back and started digging. Slowly, gradually, things began clicking. A pattern started to emerge. This bug wasn't crashing the whole system, but it was messing with the client data synchronization. It explained why Karen sounded like the apocalypse was imminent, even if the rest of the office was calm as a cucumber. Dave shuffled past my desk again later that afternoon, peeking over my shoulder at the spaghetti tangle on my screen. Well, look at you, not totally clueless, he said with a smirk, shaking his head. Don't get cocky, though. This thing's a beast. His acknowledgement felt weirdly reassuring. Like, sure, I was still the office, nobody, but maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely hopeless. That night, well past normal hours, I was still there, lit only by the ghostly glow of my monitor, scrolling through error logs and trying to piece together the fix. It felt like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces were missing and the other half were shaped like question marks. At some point, exhaustion crept in and I almost gave up. But something about Lisa's earlier words kept echoing in my mind. I had to trace it back to the origin. So I did one last deep dive, tracing the glitch all the way to a small, overlooked script that had been added during the update. Something so tiny yet powerful enough to cause chaos. After what felt like a lifetime of staring at code, I found it, a misplaced semicolon causing a cascade of errors. It was such a minor thing that it almost made me laugh. One tiny punctuation mark wreaking havoc like the office apocalypse. I jotted down a plan to fix it, triple-checked my work, and sent out a test patch. My heart was pounding like I'd just run a marathon, but then something remarkable happened. The system started syncing correctly again on the test server. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes, almost not believing it. Could this little fix really be the silver bullet? Did I just do what Karen thought was impossible? I was tired, yeah, and still pretty sure the real crisis had barely been scratched, but in that moment, I felt like I'd climbed a tiny mountain, or at least a very steep hill. The next morning promised to be a test of all that. Would my fix work when pushed live, or would Karen's meltdown become permanent office background music? And honestly, I was still not sure what to expect from Dave or Lisa's reaction this time. But for now, that late-night breakthrough was the closest thing I'd felt to hope. So, there I was, standing in the middle of the conference room at 8:59 a.m. Laptop in hand, heart doing that weird mix of a drum solo and a slow dance. Karen was already pacing like a caged tiger, phone pressed to her ear, eyes darting around as if the crisis might have somehow multiplied overnight. The whole team was there, looking at me like somehow I was going to pull a rabbit out of this stressed-out hat. I cleared my throat and tried to keep my voice steady. Okay, I've identified the root cause. It was this tiny syntax error in the update script. Fixed the semicolon, tested it overnight on the server, and it seems like things are back on track. You could almost hear the collective pause in the room. Lisa smirked from the sidelines, giving me the classic, See, I told you, look with a raised eyebrow. Dave? Well, he folded his arms but did a slow nod that was somewhere between skeptical and impressed. Like he was deciding if I was worthy to borrow his coffee mug one day. Karen blinked, clearly not expecting such a straightforward fix. She pursed her lips, then visibly relaxed her shoulders. Wait, you mean this nightmare was caused by a single semicolon? That's actually impressive. I couldn't help but smirk back. Yeah, seems like it. The little things can cause big problems. Then she surprised me by cracking a genuine smile. Thin, tentative, but it was there. All right, she said. Let's roll this fix out and monitor it carefully. Good work. That moment, the tension in the room finally started to lift. People exchanged glances, some daring to smile, as if the looming crisis had just been diffused by someone no one expected. Me, the accidental hero of Desk 47B. Dave sidled up as we were wrapping things up. Hey, not bad for a guy who's supposed to just refill the printer paper, he teased, but there was a warmth in his voice now. Maybe you're not completely hopeless after all. Lisa rolled her eyes but grinned. Look at you, soaking up praise like it's a spa day. Don't get used to it. I laughed, feeling lighter in a way I hadn't all week. The truth was, this victory felt surreal. I'd gone from invisible background noise to the center of attention, and frankly, it was exhausting, but exciting. For a moment, I entertained the idea that maybe the office had noticed me, really noticed me. But then, of course, reality pitched in. Karen was already pulling out her phone, setting up follow-ups, and reminding me that this was just the first step. Next week, we have that big client pitch. Let's not have any more surprises, okay? I nodded, knowing full well that the adrenaline rush I was riding would soon be replaced by whatever the next challenge was going to be. Because in this office, calm was just a temporary illusion before the next crisis freakout. When I finally caught up with Lisa later by the vending machine, she punched my arm lightly and said, "Hey hero, don't let it get to your head. Remember, today's win might just be tomorrow's disaster waiting backstage." I laughed because she was right. Still, I couldn't deny a quiet pride swelling inside me. For all the chaos, the confusion, and the unexpected stress, I'd found my footing. And who knows? Maybe next time when Karen storms in yelling about some disaster, I won't be the clueless guy clutching a lukewarm coffee. Maybe I'll be ready. Or maybe I'll just keep my coffee hotter next time. Either way, this accidental hero ride definitely made it one heck of an office story.